Greetings from chess.com. I am back to do another chess MCQ with you. To make the most out of the video, I would suggest that you use a physical chess set and then also write down your move so that you commit to that decision, and then set yourself 2 to 5 minutes for every move, and then sometimes even more, and then conclude the session with some learning so that it is registered in your mind, and above all, it's important to have fun. So let's go. I have this game played by Indian superstar Grandmaster Harika Dronavalli against Ju Winjun, and Grandmaster Harika Dronavalli considers this game as one of her best recent games, and it's a good idea to play out this game and extract the most from this because it's very instructive the way she plays. So let's get started. This is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight f6, knight c3, knight c6. So it's a 4 knights game in which Harika plays bishop b5, and after bishop b4 she goes castles, castles, and now bishop takes c6, d takes c6. Now the position has this exchange Royal Lopez flavor, and here she plays pawn to d3. And now with pawn to d3, white is making a point that the e4 pawn is supported and white is ready to take the pawn on e5. So here comes bishop d6, and here she plays knight e2, and black responds with knight h5, and she wanted to get her knight to g3, so she does that with knight g3. So after knight g3, here comes your first question. Reward yourself 2 points if you get the best move, and sometimes 1 if the move is second best, and 0 if you have not found the best move. So in this position, after knight takes g3, you have two options. Do you want to take hg3 or do you want to take fg3? I hope you have taken your time to make the decision. I'm going to reveal the move now. In this position, fg3 is the best move. We are taught that we must capture towards the center, which is hg3, but here it is an exception. So that is why masters know the principles, and they master them, and then they know when to break that principle. So they know that exceptions exist. So in this position, fg3 is important so that you give the rook some air, and it is able to occupy or maybe control some important squares in the future on the f line. So this move fg3 paves way for many opportunities. It activates the rook indirectly. So I think this is one of the I think this is an idea that you can keep in your mind. It also comes in different openings to take fg3 so that your rook gets some air. Now after fg3, black played f5. Here comes your next question. Do you want to play e takes f5? Do you want to play queen to e2? Do you want to play bishop g5 to attack the queen, or do you want to play b3 to develop your bishop on b2? Okay, in this position, if you chose ef5, I would say that's not the best move, because the bishop that is sitting quietly on c8 is now given a job to play and take on f5. So we should not really help our opponents this way, because your opponent is anyway intending to develop this bishop, and you are making things easy for your opponent. Also, it's going against the principle of maintaining the tension. So ef5 is not the best move. b3 in this position is also not best, because black can simply play fe4 and play bishop c5 check, and after you play king h1, a lot of exchanges, and then black is having no problem, and he's already equalized. So you can't really allow the exchange of queens this way. So b3 is rejected. Bishop g5 is interesting, but still not the best move, because black wants to go queen e8 and queen h5. So you're making things easy by helping your opponent to play the best move in the position, because this decision is also quite easy for black. So in chess, it's very important that you pose some concrete, difficult problems for your opponent so that you provoke mistakes from your opponent. So considering all that, it makes sense to play queen e2, which is the best move. You maintain the tension. You're also on the verge of connecting the rooks and protecting e4 pawn, and more importantly, avoiding the exchange of queens. After queen e2, black played fe4, and here both moves are possible, but d takes e4 is consistent. And after queen e7, you have choices again. Do you want to play knight h4 to go with your knight to f5? Do you want to play bishop to e3 just to connect your rooks, or do you want to play something else? Okay, in this position, if you have chosen a move like a4, that's also decent. It's quite good. If you have chosen bishop d2, that is also good. Bishop e3 is the best move in the position after a4, but definitely not knight h4 because that allows the exchange of rooks. And after rook takes f1, it's very awkward. White will have to play king takes f1, and after a5 or bishop e6, the rook on e8 is ready to check the king. So you would not want to give some extra moves unnecessarily to your opponent. So it makes sense to play bishop e3, a developing move, new piece. And after bishop e3, Harika's opponent Ju Wunjun went bishop e6. And here comes another question. Do you want to play rook a d1 to bring the rook to the d line? And then do you want to play knight to g5 to attack this bishop on e6? Or do you want to play bishop g5 to attack the queen on e7? Here you can also choose your own move apart from the list. Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer now. In this position, if you play a move like a4 or b3, they are okay. And if you've chosen rook a d1 in this position, that's fine. Black has b5. But if you chose bishop g5 in the position, then black will play queen e8. So it's not of much use because this bishop will be kicked away again. So the best move is either maybe b3 a4 or knight g5, and I really like knight g5, so full points if you got knight g5. The reason is that if black plays, let's say, bishop d7, then there is a dangerous queen c4 check followed by knight f7 or even rook f7, which is even better. So bishop will be exchanged, so black will no longer have the double bishop advantage. So that is the reason why knight g5 is so important. And then black will be left with this bishop which will have to defend the pawn on e5 for a really long time. So after bishop g5, after knight g5, black went h6, and white took knight e6, queen e6, and from here Harika makes a very smooth transition from the middle game to end game. She plays b3 and then a4 and exchanges pieces because white is really having a decent advantage, because the pawn on e5 in comparison to the pawn on e4, this bishop will have to defend this pawn on e5, whereas this bishop can attack. So you have an attacking bishop, plus you can see these pawns are also on dark squares, which mean that white has more targets to attack. And then let me come to a critical position after queen d2. In this position, do you want to play queen f3 to reject the exchange of queens? Do you want to play queen c4 check? Do you want to play queen to f1, or do you want to play queen takes d2? Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer now. If you choose queen f1, I'm sorry, that's not the best move because black has bishop f4 check. And then if you play king h1, then he can simply take the pawn. If you play bishop g3, he can take this and then take the pawn. So that is the reason why you can't really play queen f1. In this position, if you play queen f3, then you lose all your advantage. Black will simply play bishop e7, and black's active queen ensures that is at least equal. So in this position, white has to make use of the opportunity to exchange queens and not give this check on c4 because black simply goes to h7. So queen d2 is the best move in the position and the only move to keep winning chances in the game. After bishop takes d2, again a choice. What do you want to do? Do you want to play king g3? Do you want to play bishop g3, or do you want to play king g1? Okay, in this position, if you play king g1, it's quite slow because black will also play king f7, but it is a decent move. If you play king g3 in this position, then black will have king f8 and black will also come with his king. But the best move in this position is to play bishop g3 and attack the pawn on e5. But the difference between these moves is not really that big. So you are forgiven if you choose the other moves, but full points if you get bishop g3. Then after bishop g3, black has to play bishop c3, and then he cannot play bishop f4 in this position because ef4, and then this pawn will be picked very soon. He can simply play g3 or even get this, and this pawn will be lost very soon. So in king and pawn endgames, the drawback is that black has these 4 pawns, whereas white has these 3 pawns which are good enough to defend 4. That means this pawn is clearly a passer. So that is an advantage in playing Rai-Lopez exchange endgames. So in this position, white went h5, again a very nice move. It's very important to go h5 so that you take away g6 ideas. And after h5, king f7, here's your chance. What do you want to do as white? Do you want to play king h3? Do you want to play king g1? Do you want to play bishop h4? Or do you want to play something else? In this position, of all the moves that I've mentioned, the best move is bishop h4, because you are keeping an eye on the d8 square. You can go to d8 and also threaten to win this pawn. So you can see that this is the first weakness and this is the second weakness, and then the g7 pawn can be considered as the third weakness in the long run. So bishop h4 is the best move. All the other moves are possible, but they are quite slow in nature. So bishop h4 is correct. And after king e6, white has g5 pawn break, and after bishop d2, again a good moment for you to think what you would do as white. This time I will not give you options because the moves are quite obvious. Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer now, but before revealing, maybe if you are considering some moves like king h3, g6, gh6, I would say that you are very close to the answer. So in this position, there are different ways to win. Maybe g6 is the easiest way to win because you're threatening bishop d8. And if black plays king d6, then you have bishop f6 because you're attacking this pawn. After gf6, g7 wins. So that is the reason why g6 wins, because this is not so easy to defend. If you play a move like bishop f4, then white can simply play something like king h3, and after bishop d2, you can go king g4, and after bishop f4, eventually bring the king, and then the tricks of bd8 and bishop f6 will eventually follow. For example, here bishop d8 and then pawn is lost. So if you go king d7, there is bishop f6 and then this pawn is lost. So white is winning. But in the game, Harika played gh6, which is also strong enough to win. After gh6, she activated her king with king h3, and then she got her king into the play because king is an active piece in the endgame. And here I have a question again after bishop d2. What would you like to do as white? Do you want to play bishop d8 to attack this pawn on c7? Do you want to play bishop g3, a waiting move? Do you want to play c3, or do you want to play king d3? Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer now. In this position, it's important that you play c3 as an attempt to create a passed pawn with b4. The other moves will just prolong the game a little, but eventually you will have to go for c3 break. So c3, and then after bishop e3 there is b4. The idea is ba5 is coming, and then even that pawn will be a weakness, and then this lone bishop has too many responsibilities and it cannot fulfill them all. So after bishop e3, b4, c4, a4, bishop d2, bd8, king d7, bishop f6, king e6, bishop g7, king d6. She gets the break that she needs, a5, and this bishop cannot protect the pawn and also prevent white from going forward. So this deflection helps white to play g5, and this pawn is unstoppable. After king e6, she can even play g6, which is what happened in the game. And after bishop d2, there comes a tactical shot, which is quite easy to see, I believe. If you find it, then a bonus point for you. Bishop takes e5 is the answer, and then king e5 is not possible because of g7. So that way black loses another pawn on c7, and then the game as well. So this was Harika Dronavalli's amazing win, and this happened in 2020. I really liked it and really loved studying it. I hope you also picked some useful lessons, especially the way she conducted the game and fixed the opponent's weaknesses, did not go for unnecessary attacks, and she kept the pressure, and then she also held the advantage throughout the game. Even the transition from middle game to end game, the smoothness of her transition, and how she built over the principle of two weaknesses, c7, e5, and later exploited even g7. I hope you learned a lot from these games. I'll be back with another one. Until then, take care, bye bye. Do let me know your score in the comments.